Over 2 years ago, I put every brawler up against the Ike turret in Siege. There were only 17 brawlers in the game, brawlers had only 1 star power, and gadgets did not even exist. On top of that, since then, the turret got a range buff and a health nerf. A ton has changed, and I think it's time that we update the Dive Olympics. Here are the rules. Brawlers like Jean cannot safely attack from a distance. They must do a full dive. And for the sake of keeping things simple, spawnables like Penny's turret must also be within range of the turret. Now, brawlers can start with a pre-charged super, and they can use any gadget or star power that will give them an advantage. We're gonna start with the worst brawlers and work our way up to the best brawlers for diving against the Siege bot. But first, I wanted to give a big thank you to Contra Returns for sponsoring this video. If you've never played a Contra game, you're in for a real treat. Contra is one of the longest running side-scrolling shoot-em-ups that millions of gamers across several generations have been playing since 1987. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent playing Contra 3 as a kid. That game was fun. And Contra Returns is also a lot of fun. You can now experience the epic action that comes from Contra on iOS and Android completely for free. Click the link below to download. We're talking over 200 levels of intense action, including the return of some bosses from previous Contra games. And as you progress through the levels, they just get more and more difficult. Then there's a ton of other content to explore, like the One Life Challenge, where you try to progress as far as possible, but if you get hit by a single bullet, you have to start over. You can even face other players in PvP. My favorite part of the game is that you can play from over 10 different heroes that all have unique skills, and you can customize them with up to 2 different guns that you can switch between on the fly. Honestly, I've been having a lot of fun playing Contra Returns. The game was made incredibly well, so you should download it using the link in the description below. And thanks again to Contra Returns for sponsoring this video. Starting in dead last is Mortis. No matter how hard I tried, the most damage I could deal with Mortis was 3,820 damage using 1 super, 2 attacks for travel, 1 attack for damage, and 1 combo spinner gadget. Mortis takes 49th place and can only take out 11% of the turret's health. Next is Sprout, whose super and gadgets don't help at all. Sprout's overgrowth star power allows Sprout to fire its first attack a bit sooner, which buys enough time for Sprout to land 3 attacks. Sprout deals 4,116 damage and takes 48th place. Next we have Tick, whose star powers does not matter, and I actually tried Tick's last hurrah gadget, but it doesn't actually help Tick stay alive long enough for him to deal more damage. So the best option for Tick is to use his super to tank a bit for him, and then use his Mine Mania gadget to land 6 mines on the turret. For some reason it took a little bit of time for the attack to explode, but Tick was able to deal 4,480 damage, which places him in 47th place. Now, even if your timing is perfect, Belle does not have enough time to unload her super and 3 ammo before she dies. Because her super doesn't increase damage on the Ike turret, that means it's more beneficial for her to just use 3 attacks instead. Even then, your timing has to be perfect for her to unload all 3 ammo. She deals 4,620 damage and takes 46th place. Next we have Poco, whose tuning fork gadget helps keep him alive for an additional second, and then his screeching slow star power, which deals a little bit of damage thanks to Poco's super. Even with all of his healing, his low damaging attack means Poco only deals 4,720 damage, and he takes 45th place. Now Sandy's rude sand star power helps him deal some extra damage throughout the whole super, and by activating Sandy's sleep stimulator gadget right after he first takes damage, he'll revive just in time for him to get close enough to the turret to unload 3 attacks. Sandy deals 4,764 damage and takes 44th place. Stu uses his Gasso Heal star power to tank 1 additional hit from the Ike turret, and his Speed Zone gadget turret to tank just a bit more. Stu's able to unload 3 ammo and dies just before he reloads a 4th. He deals 4,872 damage before dying and takes 43rd place. Now neither Byron's gadget or star powers help him in the Dive Olympics, and Byron only survives long enough to either fire 3 ammo or fire 2 ammo and a super. Since his super deals more damage than his attack, the choice is obvious. In total, he's able to deal 4,956 damage and takes 42nd place. Next is Surge, who I allowed to be fully upgraded before he started, but the only real benefit was his range upgrade. He teleports within range of the attack turret and is able to unload 3 attacks before dying and deals 4,965 damage, taking 41st place. Jean starts out by activating his Vengeful Spirits gadget, since his Lamp Blowout gadget doesn't actually heal him enough for him to survive an additional attack. He then fires off 1 attack for a bit of scatter damage and waits to fire his other 2 ammo until he's close enough to deal max damage with them. He deals 5,028 damage and takes 40th place out of the 49 brawlers. Those were the worst 10 brawlers when it comes to diving against the Ike turret. From here on out, all of the brawlers are able to take out more than 15% of the turret's health. Coming in 39th place is Jackie, who starts off with her pneumatic booster to get closer to the turret faster. Her Hardy Hard Hat star power allows her to survive 1 additional shot, which is exactly what she needs to unload all 3 ammo before dying. And in that time, she's able to deal 5,376 damage. Now, I tried every gadget and star power combination with Carl, and what performed performed best was his heat ejector gadget for a bit of extra damage and his protective pirouette star power to help keep him alive while Carl supers his way to the Ike turret. In total, he's able to deal 5,400 damage and takes 38th place. Edgar's new hardcore gadget helps him survive 2 additional hits, which gives him enough time to unload all 3 of his ammo before dying. His hard landing star power helps deal a bit of damage as well, and he deals 5,536 damage and takes 37th place if done correctly. Next is Max, who drops her sneaky sneakers gadget and waits 1 second before running in, so she'll survive before she blinks back. Doing this perfectly took me quite a bit of practice, and because Max must go back into the circle immediately after blinking back, she's only able to deal 5,880 damage before dying. Now I gave B a free charge shot at the start, plus she got some additional damage from her Rattled Hive gadget. Either star power is fine since Honeycomb doesn't actually shield enough for B to survive an additional hit. In total, she can deal 6,000 damage, which is enough to take out 18% of the Ike's health. Next is Amber, who uses her Firestarter's gadget to get just a bit of speed boost. She then throws her super and unloads as much of her attack as she can, but she doesn't survive very long before dying. She does 6,048 damage and ties with Lou for 33rd place. Now the Ike turret can't be frozen, so Cryo Syrup gadget or either of Lou's star powers don't actually have any effect. And his Ice Block gadget isn't even useful because even if he uses it, he doesn't have enough time to unload a 4th ammo. It's just better to use his super for a bit of damage at the start, and then Lou can unload 3 attacks to deal a total of 6,048 damage. Next is BB. Now her Vitamin Booster gadget paired with her Batting Stance star power gives her just enough time to get close enough to the turret to unload 2 attacks before she dies. She's also able to get 2 hits from her super, which means that she deals 6,160 total damage. That ties BB for 32nd place with Griff. Now Griff's gadget is useless, and his better star power is actually Business Resilience, because the minimal healing that it provides just barely helps him survive 1 more attack, which gives him enough time to deal a little bit more damage. He's not the best Zyver, but if you only need to take out 18% of the turret's health, he can do the job. Now Gale's Spring Ejector gadget helps him get close enough to attack the turret right from the start. Interestingly enough, because you stop reloading for a very split second whenever you use your super, Gale actually does not have enough time to use his super and unload a 4th shot. So it's actually just better to not use his super at all because his attacks deal more damage than his super does. Gale can deal 6,272 damage and takes 30th place. Now Buzz doesn't get any help from his gadget or his star powers. In fact, Buzz doesn't even stay long enough for him to fully unload his 3rd ammo. Thanks to his stun though, he's able to take out 19% of the turret health before dying. He can deal 6,468 damage and takes 29th place. Now the last time I did the Siege Olympics, Shelly took dead last. Thanks to her Band-Aid star power and her fast forward gadget, she can get close enough to the turret that she can actually unload a full super right before she dies. And she can deal 6,552 damage and takes 28th place out of the 49 brawlers currently in the game. Next we have Spike. Now I tried making either of Spike's gadgets work, but Spike doesn't last long enough to utilize either of them. I also tried both star powers and found that Curveball helps Spike deal slightly more damage to the turret. If Spike uses 1 ammo just as he enters the turret's range, he's able to use his super and 3 ammo to deal 6,720 damage, which places him in 27th. Now we're just about halfway through all of the brawlers, and from this point on, every brawler can take out more than 20% of the turret's health. Now Ems uses her bad Karma star power for some additional damage, but her current gadget doesn't help at all. Ems is barely able to unload her 3rd ammo before dying, and she can deal 7,098 damage and takes 26th place. Next is Colt, who uses his Silver Bullet gadget for extra damage, since Colt doesn't stay alive long enough to use his Speed Loader gadget. His Magnum Special star power allows him to hit the turret with his super as soon as he enters turret range. And in total, Colt can deal 7,392 damage to the turret before dying and takes 25th place. Now thanks to Rosa's shield, she is able to get close enough to the turret to unload 3 full attacks before dying. Rosa actually takes 5% more health off of the turret by using her Thorny Glove star power, which means it doesn't matter which gadget you use. She ends up taking 24th place by dealing 7,556 damage. Now by using a combination of Leon's Clone Projector gadget and his Invisi-Heal star power to heal himself, Leon is able to get close enough to unload 3 ammo, dealing a total of 7,806 damage before dying. That's enough to take out 23% of the turret's health and also place 23rd. Colette's Not-On gadget adds an additional 1,000 damage with her first attack, but before that, she supers onto the turret, and thanks to her Mass Tack star power, she gets shielded just enough that she can unload 3 attacks. She takes out 24% of the turret's health by dealing 8,400 damage and takes 22nd place. Now we let Colonel Ruff start off already boosted by his his super so he could deal additional damage. If your timing is perfect, Colonel Russ can unload his super, all 3 attacks, and his air support gadget before he dies. This allows him to deal 8,420 damage, and he takes 21st place. Now, Homemade Recipe allows Piper to kind of cheat a little bit by firing off a shot before she's within range of the turret. She then supers to the perfect location so she can fire off 3 ammo before dying. In total, she deals 8,512 damage and takes 20th place. Barley's up next, and his Herbal Tonic gadget allows Barley to tank 1 additional shot. Now, I use his extra noxious star power for additional damage. I tried medical use, but it doesn't actually keep Barley alive long enough for him to reload an additional ammo. In total, Barley's able to deal 8,528 damage, which is impressive considering the fact that he has so little health. But Dynamite actually beats Barley by less than 100 damage. Neither gadget is really helpful because Dynamite dies before Satchel Charge actually takes effect, and I went with his Demolition star power. I tried Dynajump, and maybe a super skilled Dynajump player could do better with it, but I think Demolition is the more consistent way to deal damage with Dynamite. He's able to deal 8,560 damage and places 18th. Next is Rico with his super bouncy star power for just a little extra damage. I use his bouncy castle gadget to help Rico survive 2 attacks from the Ike turret, and I could have gotten just a bit more damage with Rico by bouncing his second attack, but I didn't want to waste any time by trying to aim it perfectly, so I felt really good about this dive. Rico deals 8,656 damage and takes 17th. Now, thankfully, Frank has a lot of health, and his Sponge star power helps him survive the 1 additional hit that he needed to super onto the turret and use 4 attacks before dying. In total, he deals 8,680 damage and takes 16th place. Brock starts out with his rocket fuel gadget to get more damage out of his first rocket, and because the turret is a stationary target, Brock gets way more value out of his incendiary star power than his rocket number 4. Also, I should mention that Brock does significantly better if he just ignores his super and just uses his attacks. He can deal 8,902 damage to the turret and takes 15th place. Now, Bo's star powers don't really matter because Snare Bear triggers after Bo dies anyway. Typically, I wouldn't let a brawler use any abilities after they die, but I made an exception for Bo's Tripwire gadget because it's very possible for Bo to land a super and then activate this gadget after he dies in a regular match. Bo can deal 9,968 damage and ties with Crow for 13th place. Crow's defense booster gadget helps Crow get close enough that Crow can do a perfect super onto the turret. Now, the reason I fired an attack at the start was so that Crow's extra toxic star power would reduce the damage from the turret. This takes a lot of practice to do perfectly, but Crow can take out 29% of the Ike turret's health if done right. Now, I tried both of Nita's gadget, and her faux fur gadget actually slightly improved the damage that Nita can do. Her Bear With Me star power doesn't work against the turret, so Hyper Bear is the obvious choice. Nita is the first brawler that is able to deal over 10,000 damage, and she ends up taking 12th place. In 11th place is El Primo, who uses his Asteroid Belt gadget for an additional 2,000 damage. Then you have his El Fuego star power for another 1,200 damage. With his super and 3 full attacks, El Primo is able to deal 10,368 damage, which is 30% of the turret's health. And with that, we are down to the top 10 best divers in Brawl Stars. Every one of these brawlers can deal over 30% of the turret's health and can deal 11,000 or more damage. Let's see if you know who takes first place. The best dive combination for Jessie is her Recoil Spring gadget for a lot more DPS and her Energy Star power to keep the turret alive. This is very hard to pull off. If you don't throw Scrappy at the perfect time, either Jessie will die before she can activate her gadget, or Scrappy won't be close enough for Jessie's bounce shots to hit the Ike turret. If done right, Jessie can deal 11,004 damage and takes 10th place out of the 49 brawlers in the game. Daryl's best gadget is Recoiling Rotator because it does a little bit more damage, and his best star power is actually Steel Hoops since Daryl dies before he could even unload more than 3 ammo anyway. Daryl is able to deal 11,072 damage and takes 9th place. Now, I gave Tara a bit of an unfair advantage by using her support from Beyond gadget far enough away that she could activate it twice. The Ike turret fires at each one of the shadows twice, even though they only survive 1 shot, which buys Tara a lot of time. Plus, she gets additional damage thanks to her super and Black Portal star power. In total, Tara is able to deal 11,572 damage in a single dive and takes 8th place, even though she was second to last in the last Dive Olympics. I gave Nani a bit of an unfair advantage as well by letting her activate her super outside of the turret range, but I do think this is fair since her super has such a long range, and this is a very likely scenario in an actual siege match. She also gets some additional damage from her Return to Sender gadget and her autofocus star power. It is tricky to get max damage using autofocus, but if you do everything right, Nani can deal 11,780 damage to the turret, wiping away 34% health and placing Nani in 7th out of all of the brawlers. Coming in 6th is Pam. Now, Pam waits a while before throwing her super down and activates her pulse modulator gadget so she can survive. Thanks to her healing station being close to the enemy turret, her Mama Squeeze star power does a little bit of extra damage against it. Plus, it helps tank for her and heal her so she can deal a massive 11,864 damage. This kind of dive requires some perfect timing and super placement, but if done right, the enemy team will be in a world of hurt. Mr. P is able to do surprisingly well because his super and gadget helps him tank so many hits from the turret. Now his porter reinforcements gadget is better if Mr. P is able to build up a wave of all 3 porters with him, but otherwise his service bell gadget is actually better. In this run though, Mr. P's revolving door star power allowed the turret to spawn an additional porter as well, and in total, Mr. P was able to deal 12,012 damage and take out 35% of the turret's health. Coming in 4th place is Bull, who actually got 1st place in the last dive test. His T-Bone injector gadget gives Bull more health, and his Berserker star power is currently the better star power to use if you want to dive on the siege turret, since it activates sooner than his Tough Guy star power does. Before dying, Bull is able to deal 12,320 damage, but there are still 3 brawlers that are better divers than he is. Coming in 3rd place is Penny. Now neither gadget helps since Penny can't get close enough to use Captain's Compass, and Penny dies before she can use Pocket Detonator close to the Ike. But where Penny deals big damage is her Last Blast star power. Not only does her turret tank for her so she can unload more attacks, but when it dies, the turret takes over 6,000 damage. In total, Penny can deal 13,664 damage, and in the right situation, she can clear 40% of the turret's health with 1 dive. In 2nd place is Squeak. Now I gave Squeak a free ammo because of how easy it is for Squeak to hit the Ike turret with his wind-up gadget. That means that Squeak is able to unload 4 attacks, but the real damage came from a perfectly placed super that dealt 8,400 damage by itself. I should mention that Squeak's chain reaction star power doesn't actually help increase damage at all. Still, Squeak is able to deal a massive 14,000 damage, which is actually way less than the #1 brawler. Let's see if you know who it is. This would be a nice reminder to use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop. That's right, it is 8-Bit, who starts out with his extra credits gadget for a ton of extra damage. He uses his boosted booster star power for the additional 15% damage that it gives, and 8-Bit tanks perfectly for the turret, and then the turret tanks perfectly for 8-Bit to allow for maximum damage. If done right, 8-Bit is able to deal 20,832 total damage, which clears a massive 60% of the turret's health by himself. And that makes 8-Bit the best brawler for diving against the Ike turret. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing and use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop. And you can also watch more videos right here because this video is done. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by. We will see you in Brawl Stars.